Hey everybody, welcome to this week's game design class. This week we're going to be focusing on game analysis, and we're going to be doing kind of in-depth game analysis, and you're going to get to choose what game you analyze and what you analyze about that game. I'm sharing a PDF with you under the assignment, which will have a lot of guidelines to sort of help you understand how to analyze a game, some different approaches you can take. But I just want to go through that PDF with you here to just talk about those segments. Just to let you know, I'm looking for this analysis to be around 250 words, and I want a clear thesis and a conclusion in it. This is an essay, right? You're writing an essay similar to what you would do in a literature class. You're ultimately, you're analyzing a work of art, but you're analyzing from the point of view of the artist, right? Because now you know about video game design, mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics. You know the process. You know about indexical storytelling to some degree. We've covered a lot of different things about video game design. And so I want you to use that sort of knowledge that you have as you approach analysis of the game of your choice. Okay, this is the PDF document that I will share with you in Blackboard, and that you can download and use as sort of your guidelines to help you understand things. This is not a template for your essay. This is just a discussion of the things that you can consider as you choose to do your analysis. Okay. Of course, before you start writing, play the game. I'd like you to pick a game that you're familiar with already, because something you've developed some thoughts about, but I don't want you to just rehash all the ideas you've already thought about. I want you to bring something new to this analysis. You bring your understanding of game design as a game developer, not just as a game player, okay? Take notes on the game, and then here's discussion in part 2 of the PDF about types of analysis, okay? So it says once you've played the game, you should decide what you want to focus on, what makes the game worth analyzing, what are you going to discuss, okay? So it gives you a couple examples. The morality system in the game is usually hailed as unique and complex. However, I will prove that in closer examination, it is merely a binary system and does not allow for complex moral choices. Okay, then here's an analysis topic for Metal Gear Solid 2. Although Ernest Adams argues that the design of Metal Gear Solid 2 is faulty because it breaks the fourth wall, my argument is that it does not break the immersion of the game because it actually extends the space of the game into the player space. I'm a big fan of breaking the fourth wall. I think our culture is in general. That's basically what made the film Deadpool so popular. Indeed, the character Deadpool in comic books is popular because he breaks the fourth wall. There's also that show The Office that was very popular, and breaking the fourth wall was a big part of the gag. So that's the fourth wall is an interesting topic for analysis. It's going to go through here and talk about types of analysis. Here we've got a brief summary of what the discussion is about and should constitute the thesis statement of your analysis. I'm really going to be looking for a thesis statement. I want to know what you're analyzing and basically what you're going to be showing in your essay. Okay. And then it gives you a couple of different kinds of analysis. Comparative analysis can be compared to another game or other kinds of media. Let's see. Reading or interpretation. This type of analysis understands what happens in the game as representation of something else. So here it says an example is Tetris as a metaphor for American consumerism, as Janet Murray argued. It can be a symbolic reading encouraged by the game itself, such as a psychological reading of Silent Hill 2. And there'll be just different analysis. There's a historical analysis here. It can be, for example, production of history of a game, its reception, or how it marked a specific milestone in video game history. I'd really be interested to hear a historical analysis of the new Legend of Zelda game as it goes along with the history of the Zelda franchise. It could be a case study. A format can be used as a way to prove or disprove a set of theoretical assumptions by applying them in depth to a particular game. The game becomes a reference example of a specific theory or approach. For instance, the analysis of Ultima Underworld in Well Played 1.0 explores specific methods to integrate gameplay and storytelling. Metal Gear Solid 2 could be approached as a case study of using self-reference or breaking the fourth wall, as we discussed before. Okay. 3, I want you to contextualize. Provide a frame or reference to understand your analysis is basic to make it accessible to your reader, particularly if they're not familiar with the game. Games, like any other media artifacts, are not produced in a void. They are a product of their times. So one way to contextualize the new Legend of Zelda game would be to talk about the new console that it was basically designed for and how that affects the gameplay. So you could talk about the particular developer of a game. You could talk about how it is contextualized to a particular game genre. Technological context, that would have to do with the console, like I said before, the platform the game was developed for. Socio-historical context, that's very interesting. When was the game made? And it's different to analyze a game from the 70s when video games were almost exclusively played in arcades, right? Versus games that were designed to be played at home. Or games that were designed to be played on a mobile platform, which is very important to us now. Okay, the audience of the game is something you can analyze. That's very important. Games made for older players, younger players, and then relations to other media. One thing I think of in terms of relations to other media is games that use licensing. So a game, for example, that was put out to go along with the release of a film. That's an interesting thing to consider. It's always good to explain briefly what you do in a game to someone who has not played it. So a little overview of the game, but I don't want you to overdo that. I want to understand what about the game that you're analyzing, but I don't want your essay to just be a summary of the game. We've done that sort of thing already. And I want you to talk about things like the aesthetics of the game, especially since we understand mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics. Especially, you're analyzing from the outside, but you can really drill down into the mechanics, or you can stay at an aesthetic level in your analysis. Formal elements of the game. In this section, you have to identify the different game elements that make up the game system and establish the relationship between them. That has a lot to do with dynamics, really. Game world rules. What model is the game trying to simulate? How does the game world work? Simulation and levels of abstraction. We've gone through that some. We've looked at, especially in the Game of Sutra article, about levels of abstraction. Game mechanics and resulting dynamics. So there you go again. Mechanics, dynamics, aesthetics, very important to your understanding of game design, especially as a developer. Let's see. We could talk about control schemes, audio visuals, progression versus emergence. Does the game force the player to follow a specific sequence? How does the game guide the player to the correct action? That's iterative storytelling. Indexical storytelling. Are there multiple paths? Is it a sandbox game where you can kind of do anything you want? You can even discuss things like mods, cheats, and hacks. To some games, that's crucial. Like the real popularity of some games is based on the fact that there's different mods and hacks that can be done to the game. Okay, and then remember to round up your discussion a good conclusion, as you would in any formal writing that you do for class. Okay, so here's some notes that you can look through at the end of it to kind of give you to help you understand. Here's a link to the MDA article that we've already read. So what I want you to do for this assignment this week is read through this game analysis guide that I'm going to post onto Blackboard and use it as the basis for your analysis of a game. And you can, analyze anything about any game that you want to. But the important thing is that I want you to create a thesis statement that tells me what you're going to analyze about the game and what you're going to assert about the game based on that analysis, and make sure that you have, body paragraphs that analyze and back up your opinion based on facts about the game and whatever else you're comparing it to or analyzing it with regard to. And then make sure that you have a conclusion that sums up what you've stated and shows me, a good conclusion to your analysis. As always, if you have questions about this, get right to me about it and via email, and I'll get back to you. And I look forward to hearing your opinions and reading your analysis about video games that you love and care about and think are important. And I'll see you next week.